if you have these players and you're looking to get some picks in this year's rookie draft, you could actually trade these players away and get these rookie picks, and we would feel good about it from a market value standpoint. Now, a disclaimer here. Actually, two disclaimers. Number one, again, we are basically saying, hey, we'd prefer this over this asset. And some of you are going to disagree with some of those. Totally okay. This is essentially one for one. This is the most subjective dynasty content you could ever get. So if you disagree, that's fine. If it's not going to happen in your league, then sorry, then this doesn't apply to you. But again, we're trying to give people ideas like, hey, and the other disclaimer I want to give is, this is really only applicable to people who either have one pick or no picks. If you have multiple picks, I'm not trying to, if you have 2 or 3 firsts already, I'm not trying to get 4. I'm not trying to get 5, right? And so from a strategy perspective, just be careful. Make sure you're balancing your veterans and picks, just because we like having veterans more than we like having picks. As a general statement, that's true. So I'll start with the 101. Who would I trade for Ashton Genty, essentially? I'd rather have Ashton Genty over CJ Stroud in Superflex Dynasty Leagues right now. CJ Stroud's not really bringing much to the table in terms of the advantage that he's giving you in Dynasty Superflex Leagues. From a production standpoint this year, CJ Stroud, and I won't make this a negative video about everybody. I swear I won't. But I would rather have Ashton Genty, because I think Ashton Genty's market value is going to float much higher than CJ Stroud's will in the offseason after Ashton Genty's drafted. Even the 101, I think, is going to be consistently higher than CJ Stroud. And again, some of these you're going to say, okay, these are really far-fetched. This would never happen in my league. It's a Mickey Mouse league. If you're somebody's, again, we're catering to the 70% of our audience who plays in home leagues. Either it works in your league or it doesn't, but these are ideas. Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. Marv, I would rather have Ashton Genty. I think Ashton Genty will go about the same place Marv will, where Marv did last year when he was the 101. I think Ashton Genty, though, has a lot more potential to be productive right away. And I think people are going to view him as a much better asset. And then Brian Thomas Jr. This one's probably debatable for me. You talk about this one. I don't want to talk about this one. I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr.
Would you really, than Ashton Genty?
Yeah, I would rather.
I think with Ashton Genty and just the way that he's going to be valued in the market going into this season will merit probably taking the 101 over BTJ, especially with potential landing spots. I mean, when you're looking at ideal landing spots for Ashton Genty, I just have a feeling that it's going to be very, very hyped. And again, nothing against BTJ, but there are so many wide receivers in that range, not as many running backs. People are going to probably lean towards the running back than the wide receiver there. So at the 102, we've got a couple other guys here. JSN has been a huge riser recently. We're super excited about that. We love JSN. I've loved him since he came out of college. And obviously after disappointing his first year, he came out a second-year breakout in year 2. He was still pretty inconsistent, though. I mean, when you're looking at the game log and how reliable he was on a weekly basis, he was not. And his target volume was all over the place. Now, do we expect that to be more consistent heading into his third year? I mean, he had 1,100 yards this year with 137 targets. He had some games where he had 12, 13 targets. He had other games where he had 3 or 4. So I do think, similar to Brian Thomas Jr. heading into his second year, I think that those target opportunities are going to get spread across more evenly from a game-to-game perspective. But with JSN, I do believe that, again, similar to Ashton Genty, and just the overall way that these running backs on the high end are going to be ranked in this year's class, people are desperate for running back value and running back production upside, and they are going to draft them and value them accordingly, whether it's Omarion Hampton, whether it's Caleb Johnson, whether it's Trevion Henderson, or even Ted McMillan. Any one of those guys, I think, is going to have a good shot, a good chance at being valued higher than JSN just because of their situation, their draft capital. Saquon Barkley is another guy. Again, you can take a shot on a rookie who is first year of their rookie deal, getting really good draft capital at the 102 or whatever wide receiver potentially goes there, or you can ride with Saquon Barkley, who's 28 years old and had one of the best running back seasons that we ever seen. Can't blame you on that, but again, in Dynasty Fantasy Football, when we're playing a game of value, Saquon Barkley is objectively at his value ceiling right now. So we'd probably rather take a shot on the 102 there. Bo Nix as well in a super flex format. Let me reinforce a super flex format. When we mention quarterbacks that we would move for rookie picks in this video, we were talking about super flex. So if you're in a 1 QB league, you can disregard it. Don't laugh at us and trash us though and say that we're stupid for no, this is super flex. So with Bo Nix, he had a really, really good rookie season. Obviously, we do question what his production upside really is going to be long term in that offense and in that situation. I do think that there are just better shots to be had at the 102 that you're going to prefer at the skill positions at wide receiver and running back.
103. I always get stuck talking about Bucky, and everybody hates me for it. But listen,
Rip.
Look. The Bucky price, the Bucky value is too rich for my blood. Sorry, I don't. Am I allowed to think that? Am I allowed to have that opinion? I just would rather not own him. For this price, I'd just rather not. Again, like the answer to my question is, yeah, I'm allowed to think that. Like, I don't think it's a hot take to say. I would rather have the 103 over Bucky Irving. And I did a start-off draft, and Bucky Irving went before the 103. So it's happening. It's real. And, I think there are going to be way better running backs filled with the 103
It's Hampton or
Bucky.
Caleb Johnson.
I think they're better than Bucky. I just do.
Yeah.
Like, Bucky's a good running back. But Bucky had a good year. Bucky's a promising rookie with a lot of upside. Bucky's a productive fantasy player. Bucky is efficient. Bucky is there's nothing on Bucky. I just at price, I'm like, I don't really want to own him.
I have a feeling it's going to be difficult for the market to turn down some of those ideal landing spots that you're going to see for those very talented running backs that aren't named Ashton Genty.
It's also very difficult for the market to acknowledge any potential downside to owning Bucky Irving at this price. So
right.
It's kind of goes both ways. Again, like it's a personal thing. It's my opinion. Like my opinion's not wrong. Like it's your opinion. I don't think your opinion is wrong that you want to own Bucky at this price. Man, we get slaughtered every time with Bucky. Like he's legit the one. He's the dynasty player so far this offseason. You can't say anything about. You can't say anything about him. I don't want to own him. Sorry. Brees Hall at the 103. Look, I can sit here and tell you what you want to hear, but why would you watch? Like I'm gonna tell you what I think. Brees Hall, kind of the same thing. Like Brees Hall. Brees Hall wasn't. I think the running back you get here is going to be better than Brees Hall. I think he's going to be more talented, or pretty similar from a talent perspective. Brees Hall was an early second talent in the NFL. I think Amari and Hampton, Caleb Johnson are early second talents as well. So I think it's comparable. And if they get better landing spots, I'm going to rank them ahead of Brees Hall. Brees Hall didn't have a good year. Kyren Williams, kind of the same thing. With Kyren, it's less. Kyren's good. He's productive. I like Kyren Williams, but I think the market's going to go for the new shiny toy over Kyren Williams when it's all said and done. When they see the landing spots for some of these good running backs with really good profiles, because Kyren Williams is going to be the Andy dream. I don't want to play with you anymore. Like that's what Sean McVay is going to do to Kyren Williams. I don't want to play with you anymore. And he's going to go drifting through space, and then he's going to be lost, like the Toy Story scene. Somebody put up a screenshot, so somebody knows what I'm talking about. But the reality is with these three guys, you're either getting Tet McMillan here. I'd rather have Tet. I would really. Or worst case scenario, you're getting the second best running back in this year's class, which the second best running back in this year's class, in my opinion, is going to hold more value than all three of these backs when it's all said and done, and that's the bottom line.
Yep.
So,
104, we're going to start with James Cook. James Cook, man, the last couple of years, he's been tough to get a grip on because you got in 2023 like an 1,100-yard season. Oh, that's phenomenal. Only 6 touchdowns, but he had like 44 receptions to compensate. This year, he's more productive than he was in 2023, but he has 18 touchdowns, 16 on the ground, a 14 touchdown swing on the ground, and he gets less receiving usage and he's less efficient in the receiving game, which really we were hoping would be his bread and butter. This is less of a sustainable thing in our opinion. Again, we could be totally wrong about that. I don't think that's necessarily an unpopular opinion though with James Cook. And you saw Ray Davis come in small sample sizes and take over when James Cook was banged up or get some opportunities in the red zone, and he looked good. I mean, in a running back class like this where Buffalo's looked better than they ever have, really being a run-first team, and they could try and capitalize on the running back class this year and potentially even go grab another one who has higher upside. Again, I don't want to play the if and but game with the value of James Cook, but what I will say is that what he did this year, I'm not counting on him doing that again next season, and he's going into the 4th year of his rookie deal, and he was not a day one guy. So I would take the 104 there. Again, still talking about the same range of the running backs that are going to be going there, some of the top running backs and top wide receivers in this class. Baker Mayfield, again, very similar to Bo Nix. Baker is coming off his best year ever. He was a mid-quarterback one, which is phenomenal. I don't think that, honestly, he's going to stop providing as much volume as he has been for the last couple of years. I still think he's going to be very good. Again, I want to play the market here with the rookie picks, and the closer that we get to the NFL draft, people are just going to prefer the 104 over Baker Mayfield. It's not even going to be a question because you've got guys like Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, who are valued below Baker Mayfield that can easily jump him next season because they have more contract insulation and just better situations in our opinion. And you've got other guys that are just ahead of him like Brock Purdy and CJ Stroud, who are probably just going to maintain their value over him. There's only so high that Baker Mayfield can go. He is getting close to his value ceiling right now, and we like Baker. This is not an anti-Baker. This is more playing the market with the 104. Josh Jacobs, very similar thing here. Josh Jacobs right now is getting closer and closer to JT's value, which I think is merited. Honestly, Avery kind of convinced me to the dark side with Jacobs and the way that his contract looks compared to JT's, honestly, they're equally as insulated as the other player is right now. And Jacobs was more consistent and more productive this past season. So with Jacobs, he does have, very similar to JT, he has a lot of usage. And again, this range where you've got really, really good running back prospects, I expect a guy like Travion Henderson to be going in this range. I think you're hard-pressed to select a guy like him over someone like Josh Jacobs, who has 6 years in his pocket of a lot of punishment at the NFL level. So.
Yeah, and again, we're recommending, I mean, it's all team dependent. We're recommending some of these guys, you trade them away for picks, depending on what your team build, team archetype, and we're recommending that you trade some of your picks from these proven players, especially for like contenders, for guys like dual elite QBs, you guys like well-rounded teams that are going to be contending next year. All of those types of teams, wide receiver factories even. So it depends on your team archetype. And we've been giving out these trades on our team blueprints. You can get one at flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain. Annual Motherflocker tier is going to get you a free team blueprint, and it's going to get you an updated blueprint to that team every single month. We're going to give you refreshed trade targets, roster tier, positional grades, so you can see how your team is progressing over time. And it's completely free, again, with the annual Motherflocker tier. You also get the rookie draft guide, the trade calculator, the rankings, the trade finder, all of the posts, the prospect database on Flock. It ends up being $8 a month. So, like I said, free blueprint involved, and we'll sit down, Nathan and I personally, this guy and this guy are going to grade your dynasty team. We're still doing all of them. It's a lot, but we do guarantee that we're going to look at it. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain. Like I said, annual Motherflocker tier. We'll get it done for you. Let's talk about the 105. The worst case scenario right now, from a rookie perspective at the 105, is you're either getting the running back 2 or 3, which I think they're pretty close. You're getting one of Travion, Amari Hampton, or Caleb Johnson here. You're getting the wide receiver 2, if the running backs go early, and that would be Luther Burden, or you're getting Cam Ward here. One of those 3 guys is going to be available, either the running back 3, the wide receiver 2, or the quarterback 1. And I would rather have, just talking about Jordan Addison, I would rather have in a vacuum Luther Burden over Jordan Addison. He's got a much higher ceiling, Luther Burden does. And a lot of people are pointing to Luther Burden's. I won't make this Luther Burden a Luther Burden rant at all. A lot of people are saying, yeah, Luther Burden's not worth it, and I will just say I don't think you've watched Luther Burden. Like he's much better than his production profile suggests. But Addison, Addison's been a guy that's been consistent. He's still a wide receiver 2. I still do think he has a cap ceiling, and I still do think that he is touchdown dependent. Now, it doesn't really matter if you're touchdown dependent if you always score touchdowns, and we learned that this year. But with Addison, I just feel better taking, a guy with higher upside than Luther Burden, one of the running backs, or Cam Ward. Same thing with Devonta Smith. I mean, kind of the same thing. I'm wide receiver 1 hunting here. Or I'll get quarterback 1 hunting. Or, again, I'll be RB1 hunting. Like, I think the guys you're going to draft in the rookie draft have higher upside than all 3 of these guys, including Zay Flowers. We had Zay Flowers on our sell video. Again, a guy with limited ceiling, in my opinion. He was put in one of the best situations he could have possibly been in from a schematic standpoint, from an offensive play style standpoint, from Lamar's level of play, 41 passing touchdowns in offense, and he's still
doesn't get a ton of red zone usage. That's really the kicker.
I mean, again, he's getting a lot of his production from yards and not receptions and not touchdowns, and that's just bad. And so I'll go for the upside, I'll go for the value upside, and I'll go for somebody that's going to be available at the 105 over Zay Flowers. So all 3 of these guys are solid. They're good as wide receiver 3s or 4s on your dynasty team. But at the point where you have enough depth to trade one of them away and try to go take a shot on a stud with upside, the guys you're getting here have more upside than these guys, almost objectively, from a running back, quarterback, and wide receiver position. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, again, mid-first, still in the same tier as Cam Ward. Bryce Young, who has shot up boards since he started actually showing some semblance of being a real quarterback at the NFL level. I cannot believe that we are here at the beginning of 2025 saying that Bryce Young still has this value after what we saw in the first 2/3 of the season. It is unbelievable to me, but obviously it's merited that he moved up boards so much and has increased in value. But again, give me the higher upside guys in this range. I don't really want to mess with Carolina in that situation. I'll let you take Bryce Young if you want to give me your 106. Chase Brown, we like Chase Brown, and honestly, he's a guy that has of all the day 3 guys that were taken last year that showed out, he has probably the best chance at being a top option in a really good offense, a really explosive offense for the next 2 years. But with Chase Brown, I do think there are higher upside, again, better day 2 running back prospects that you're going to see going in this range, and even some wide receivers. If a guy like Burden were to fall, where I'm absolutely taking those guys over Chase Brown, just because of the upside and the potential market value that they're going to offer. Sam Laporta, I think, is still riding on the coattails of what he did his rookie season. The way that he was utilized this season was just unfortunate, and it was less touchdowns. I mean, we talked about Addison being touchdown dependent. Sam Laporta, his production didn't come on until he started scoring touchdowns after the bye week. Before that, after the bye week, it was after week 4, but he had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, and any game, the games where he didn't score a touchdown, 10, 4, 6, 11, 4, 5, 6, 12. He had one game where he didn't score a touchdown. I think that was his rushing touchdown game where he scored 21. But anyways, all that to say, Sam Laporta, there are other tight ends that I would rather have. I'd rather pay up for Trey McBride. I'd rather avoid Sam Laporta or down tier to TJ Hawkinson if you're talking about player comps. But with the rookie picks, give me the mid first over Laporta. I mean, Tyler Warren's not even going to be going at the 106, and I prefer Tyler Warren straight up over Sam Laporta right now. Yeah. So 107.
Again, if you can afford this, a guy like Jalen Waddle. I like Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is not a bad person to buy into, but I'm willing to just take an upside shot at the 107 with whoever. Now we're getting to the point where like somebody's going to fall potentially to the 107. The 107 and 108 I like to hang out because you're going to get guys potentially out of tier 1 that fall because you have the guys that are a tier below in rookie rankings getting selected by players who just want to pick their guys. They're my guys, even though, it's not the smart choice. A lot of times you get good value falls with 107. JMO, again, I think you're going to get somebody with higher consistency than JMO, and I'm willing to just take my shot there at the 107. Kind of the same thing with Kenneth Walker. Walker, I'm not a super big believer in. I don't really like him a ton for Dynasty or Fantasy. I don't really think he's going to be the long-term guy there in Seattle. I personally think Charbonnet is better. People don't like me for that, and it doesn't matter. I think Charbonnet is better. I just, with Kenneth Walker, he's not really making a huge difference for my running back room. He's good. He's a good player, but look at the last freaking 10 weeks of the season for Kenneth Walker and tell me he made a difference. He really didn't. So, I mean, again, there's a good enough running back class. You're going to get a running back better than him. And so, again, Jameson Williams, Kenneth Walker, Jalen Waddle, all those guys I would be willing to ship off for the 107 and just see who I can get in the value fall range. And the 108 is kind of the same way.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy, oddly enough, after the roller coaster that he went through this season, he maintained his value. He held true to the trend of first-round wide receivers that maintain their value heading into their second season, which is like 70 to 80% or something crazy like that. But with Xavier Worthy, I think that he has shown that he truly, again, we didn't expect him to be a top option long-term in the Chiefs offense. He was going to be probably more of a big play guy. He is well utilized in that offense when the right pieces are in that offense that are not him, that are getting more targets, and that's Rashee Rice and now Hollywood Brown, who's really had to take that role as the short to intermediate guy who's going to be commanding some volume. So with Xavier Worthy, again, I'd rather take a shot on a guy who I do believe in that range is going to have the upside to be a top option as a receiver, or there's still going to be a ton of running backs available here. George Pickens, same sort of situation with George Pickens. I've warmed up on George Pickens quite a bit. He still has a cap ceiling in a situation where it looks like Pittsburgh's never, ever, ever going to get an elite level quarterback that's going to provide a ton of volume because they are always 9 or 10 wins every single year. They're never going to have the draft capital unless they trade up for a good quarterback. It's not going to happen anytime soon. DK Metcalf really just had a disappointing season this year and really fell off towards the end of the year. Geno Smith, I do think Seattle is stuck with Geno Smith. Very similar sort of situation to Pittsburgh. Geno's going to get the job done. He's going to have really, really good games, and he's going to have some off games. And DK Metcalf is already shaky on a weekly basis. He's a Jameson Williams on a less efficient and less effective offense. Right now is what it's looking like from a production perspective. I'm going to get trashed for that. It's fine, whatever. 109, I'm going to hit the 109 too. Terry McLaurin is a veteran wide receiver. He's going to go on 30 years old, I think, heading into this offseason. And we are kind of worried that Washington's going to take a shot on a wide receiver because it would make sense. Terry needs help. And whether it's our opinion that it's going to help Terry in his production or hurt it in his efficiency, that's up to us. We know pretty much for a fact that when Washington drafts or invests in a wide receiver in free agency, it's going to knock Terry McLaurin's dynasty value, regardless of what we think. And then Anthony Richardson, I said this in the rookie rankings video. I would rather take a shot on Shedeur Sanders in this range than Anthony Richardson, and this is right where Shedeur Sanders is going to go. You can call me crazy and say that I'm passing up on upside. Anthony Richardson has the lowest floor I have probably ever seen. So I would rather take a shot on Shedeur in a better situation. And then Jaden Reed, who, I mean, talk about floor. Good gosh. I mean, this guy's 0 points or he's 30 points, and he does not get consistent target volume. Love the rushing capability that he showcases in that offense, but he had a really good opportunity, a really good chance with all the injuries of the wide receiver core in Green Bay this year to really take control of that room and to be that top option for Jordan Love, and he is just another one of those guys. That's a good gadget guy. So I'd rather take a shot on the 109 asset that's going in that range. Tyler Warren, please.
And then we'll jump down to the 110 here, and really we'll finish with the 110, the 111, and the 112, because all these late firsts are probably going to be held by a contender. And I'll give you a good reason why, if you're a contender or if you just have a late first, you should ship these guys off. Jalen McMillan, I think you're going to get a more talented player than Jalen McMillan, a better prospect and somebody with higher upside, probably in a better situation, drafted to be a more productive player than Jalen McMillan is. And so him, Josh Downs, the exact same thing. Situationally for Josh Downs, it's not great right now. I would rather take a re-roll. Isaiah Pacheco, I would take a late first for Isaiah Pacheco right now. I don't think Isaiah Pacheco is the long-term back in Kansas City, and I think cashing out for a first is good.
Especially before the draft.
Yes.
Because there's a good
100%.
chance they take a shot on someone.
And so, I mean, if worst case scenario, Pacheco's, I mean, you got a first out of it. Like Ricky Pearsall is kind of the same thing. I'm not super high on Ricky Pearsall for fantasy purposes. I like him as a real life NFL wide receiver, but I think his fantasy ceiling is severely capped. And I'm good for a late first there. You're going to take a value win because you drafted him in the second or third round. Jerry Jeudy, same thing. This is Jerry Jeudy's potential value peak. I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like for the Browns. Jeudy had a great year, but I think a late first is a fair price for him. Khalil Shakir, I like Khalil Shakir a lot. I would take a first for Khalil Shakir just because I think, Keon Coleman's going to come into his own in that offense, and I think he's going to be the wide receiver one. I think Shakir's been really consistent. He's a high target guy, but I'm going for talent and upside in the late first
Still in
as well.
His best year he had, he finished as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you can get somebody with higher upside than that. Tyron Tracy, again, we've talked about this, but with Tracy, I think you're going to get a better running back here, point blank. Point blank, yep. I'm not even unsure about that at all. And then Dalton Kincaid, if you can get a first for Kincaid at this point, I'm willing to cut my losses with Kincaid. There's a little bit of a loss, but I think that it's a good one to take with. You get a first for Kincaid. You could probably get Colson Loveland here. I think Colson Loveland, if he goes to the right, Colson Loveland goes to the Chargers or the Broncos, I would take him over Kincaid all day. I just would. Yeah. And we said the same thing about Kincaid, but honestly, Kincaid just really hasn't panned out how we thought he was going to. So
there you go. The way their scheme has changed too. So
yeah, this is as subjective a video as it gets, but these are starting points and guys we would trade away if you don't have any rookie picks again, or if you maybe have one, or if you're just if you have a ton of safe players on your team and you want to have some upside. The rookie draft is a really good spot to give your portfolio more upside overall and give it more potential production and potential upside from a ceiling standpoint with your value. So you can use this for that way as well. Like I said, flockfantasy.com/domain. Make sure you use code domain and a Motherflocker tier. That's going to give you everything you need, team blueprint for free and the infinite blueprint, and it's going to give you the rookie draft guide. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you here soon.